Early contests build momentum for 2024 contenders seeking the White House. C-SPAN offers unfiltered coverage of events leading into early primaries and caucuses. Get access to speeches and results with the free app, C-SPAN Now, or watch live on the C-SPAN networks.
This is
Make It Plain.
Make It Plain. M.I.P.
With Masamela Matfumo.
Mark Thompson. Make It Plain. Get woke.
God bless you and good morning. As you know from our last broadcast, I've been in West Virginia with the Poor People's Campaign. We marched from historic Harper's Ferry, where John Brown's raid took place. Always said I've been looking and trying to recruit more white folks to be like John Brown. We marched from Harper's Ferry to Martinsburg, but on the way, that's why these types of trips are important. On the way, I learned something I did not know, and I'm going to share that with you today. There is a multi-billion-dollar multinational corporation that is headquartered in Denmark. It's traded on the Copenhagen Stock Exchange. It is an industrial plant by the name of Rockwool, Rockwool. It is headquartered in West Virginia in an area called Jefferson County or Ranson, West Virginia. They make mineral wool, and it's a kind of insulation that is made by melting stone and slag and then spinning it, the insulation fibers. And they also bind them with formaldehyde, toxic emissions out of you know what, and a large smokestack. The government has sanctioned it. Joe Manchin was at the groundbreaking for this plant. 21-story smokestacks. Toxic air emissions. It operates 24/7 too. It is within what's right across from one school, North Jefferson Elementary School, within 2 miles of another elementary school, a high school, a middle school, and 2 daycare centers. You can read all about this at toxicrockwool.com. It emits cancer-causing chemicals, this plant does. It damages the intellectual development in children, this plant does. It causes serious heart and lung damage. It produces haze and smog and light and noise pollution, and it affects the water and causes water pollution. Also, Rockwool was built on an African American burial ground. Now, here's the thing. If you have noticed, if you've been watching the mainstream media, watching the news, what you have found is that most of the coverage is about Ukraine, and we get that. What's going on in Ukraine is tragic. And so the mainstream media wasn't in West Virginia when we were at Rockwool. We marched there. We had a rally there Thursday and Friday, Wednesday, Thursday in West Virginia, because the interest is in Ukraine. But watch this. Watch this. Rockwool is one of the only companies that has not ceased its operations in Russia. It is still doing business in Russia. It has 4 factories in Russia. So it's making money off of Russia. It is still benefiting, even though now there are other Danish companies like Carlsberg beer. For those of you who know about that, I don't drink beer, but that's a big deal. Carlsberg beer. They stopped, a Danish company. They pulled out. But Rockwool has not. So we got to talk about that. And so while we were marching and on the road, we talked with several people who are involved in this struggle around Rockwool. Stewart Acuff, an old friend, great organizer over the years from the AFL-CIO. We talked with Ruth Hatcher, who's another community activist there in West Virginia, who's been working hard in this area. Her sister has too. Her sister's, in fact, ill. A lot of people are ill. Scientist, Dr. Catherine Jozwick, and two farmers, a bee farmer and a cattle farmer, Jennifer King and Susannah Buckles. We talked with them as well. So what you're about to hear is all about Rockwool, Russia, and Joe Manchin.
Hey Mark, so good to be with you out here in this march across West Virginia for justice.
Stewart Acuff is out here with us, our leader, and along here with Queen Ruth, who's one of the residents here. She was telling me about Rockwool. I didn't know about Rockwool, so tell us what's going on with Rockwool, man.
Well, okay. Well, Ms. Ruth Hatcher is one of our great community activists, one of our great community and environmental activists. We've been fighting this insulation plant, this toxic insulation plant, which is so bad that when they burn coal, they burn 85 tons of coal a day. Now, usually they burn either natural gas or a mix of natural gas and coal. It's a terrible polluting factory, filling the air around it with particulate matter. They've already poisoned the water. We've got 4 times the amount of aluminum in our groundwater that we had before the factory was built. We have fought them and fought them and fought them. The state has been determined to build that poisonous factory for the sake of 80 jobs. Right? We say up here, we say, you can't buy creation. You can't buy this beauty. You can't buy our health. You can't buy our justice. You can't buy our democracy for 80 damn jobs.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right?
Yeah.
And so the whole community has fought this. We've been to jail 3-4 times trying to stop it. I got arrested outside Joe Manchin's office in 2019 trying to stop this factory. I walked with Tracy Danzy, who lost a leg and a hip to water pollution in West Virginia. We walked 70 miles across Denmark to Parliament building in Copenhagen in Denmark because Rockwool is owned by a company headquartered in Denmark. So
you went to Denmark?
Went to Denmark, walked 70 miles across Denmark to ask the people of Denmark and the government of Denmark to get that company to stop polluting our valley.
Yeah.
But they do us like they do people. They own 4 factories in Russia. They haven't closed those factories. They haven't abided by the sanctions against the Russian government. They're funding Putin's slaughter. Yep. Rockwool is funding Putin's slaughter. Yep. That's an honest truth, because they are one of the only non-Russian companies that hasn't stopped their business with Russia. Now that will tell you what they think about people.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Profit over people.
Every time.
In Branson and in Russia.
Yeah.
And everywhere.
and profit over creation.
Correct.
This is a march about the children of God made in the image of the one holy and almighty God and her creation. Children of God and her creation. That's what this is all about.
Yeah. Your sister, Ruth,
Yes.
Mary,
Ruth Hatcher.
has been involved in this struggle as well. She went to Denmark with you, right?
We got to stay true.
Oh, okay. She went to Denmark with you, right?
She did. Yes, she did. And she's directly spoke to people as they went on their journey through Denmark. And the people were not supportive of Rockwool poisoning us in West Virginia.
Yeah.
And especially school children.
Because it's right next to a school, right?
It is very close to a Title I elementary school. It's less than half a mile away. And we have roughly 3,000 of our students in a 2-mile radius of a polluting plant.
Yeah.
And that's about 30% of our school children.
Yeah.
So,
Let me
sure.
There's your Citizens Against Toxic Rockwool, y'all. Look at that. I got to get one of those pens, and they're helping to fund Russia.
Exactly. And my sister Mary, she is currently not doing well. She is unable to be with us today. If she could, she would. So.
Well, we marching for her.
Exactly.
And we praying for Sister
her.
Mary.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Everyone pray for Sister Mary that her health comes back.
Thank you. And those children at that particular school made posters for my sister with little hearts. And I took them to her yesterday and she just smiled and she read them over and over. And if Joe Manchin had 1 ounce of love that those children have for my sister who they thought met, the world would be a much better place.
Yeah.
What is wrong with people? This campaign is about decency for people. They're not asking for a Maserati or a yacht. They're just asking for $15 an hour wage and health care benefits. I mean, we're not asking for much.
Do we know Joe Manchin's relationship to Rockwool?
Well, we know that Joe Manchin was at the groundbreaking ceremony for this company, Rockwool. And then what's crazy is, a few months before that, he came to our local schools basically telling our children, don't do bad habits like drinking, vaping, drugs, because it costs the state money in the long run, which I understand that. But what about polluting children? Don't you think they're going to have long-term, multi-generational problems that are going to cost the state money? So
He's not thinking about that.
No.
We get to a congested area, more vehicles will just wait till we clear and then go through.
And fossil fuels.
Thank you, Ruth.
Thank you.
Thank you. Lancey Stewart Acuff, what is Joe Manchin's relationship to Rockwool?
Well, he was he broke ground on Rockwool. He has been a supporter of Rockwool from the beginning.
So if Manchin supports Rockwool,
yeah,
and Rockwool is helping to fund Putin,
right?
Does not Manchin indirectly
absolutely
complicit?
There's no question. There's no question. Manchin and our governor, Republican Jim Justice, they have complete discretion over Rockwool because the plant would not have been built without them. And so as long as they keep their voices quiet about Rockwool funding Putin's massacre, then Manchin is in part responsible for Putin's massacre in the Ukraine.
Amen.
More MIP right after this.
Stewart Acuff, who is this young lady walking with us today?
Oh, Reverend Mark. This is a scientist from the National Institutes for Health, Dr. Catherine Jozwick, who's been the real energy, intellectual energy, and on-the-ground energy in this fight against Rockwool for the last 4 years. Wonderful, wonderful leader.
Glad you're out here marching with us. How did you get involved in this struggle?
Well, I first became aware of the Rockwool factory that's situated across the street within half a mile of a Title I elementary school and across the street from a low-income neighborhood. And I was just appalled that they would put such a factory in that location. And then over the ensuing couple years, I met a lot of these people. And one of them, Sharon Hellman, introduced me to the Poor People's Campaign. And so, our struggle is everyone's struggle, and Poor People's Campaign struggles are ours, so that's how we end up.
So from an environmental and a health and science perspective, tell us more about the dangers this factory imposes.
Well, they're going to emit 156,000 pounds of pollution per year, and that is, like I said, right next to an elementary school. And those pollutants, including particulate matter, sulfur dioxide, formaldehyde, have an oversized effect on young children, on both their neurological development as well as their pulmonary health, because children are outside exercising to capacity much more so than adults. And so placing this right next to, it's actually within 2 miles of 5 of our schools. So some of these students are going to experience or be exposed to this pollution their entire school life, from kindergarten on through 12th grade.
And that will have long-term effects, won't it?
Yeah, definitely. So as I said, the pulmonary effects are well known, especially for those kids who already have asthma and conditions like that. But the neurological effects of things like particulate matter and formaldehyde are well known as well.
And you tried to make Rockwool and others involved with it, you tried to inform them of these dangers, right?
Oh, yeah.
And what has been their response?
Well, initially we thought, they're just naive. They just don't understand, being close to the school. They know. This is their playbook. They always come into a poor area, and of course their first response is, we didn't know, and nothing's harmful. What you see coming out of the smokestacks is steam. Well, you don't need a Title V air permit for steam. And so they tried the same trick that they always do, saying, we didn't have accurate information. They do everything by the regulations. Well, we know in West Virginia how well the government protects our health, our air, and our water. So they have been dismissive of our concerns.
And Joe Manchin has been complicit?
Yeah, Joe Manchin was at the groundbreaking for the Rockwool factory. We figured he wasn't aware that the citizens of this county didn't want this factory. Because in West Virginia, frankly, a lot of counties would want it because they're used to industrial growth. We have no heavy industry in this county. So we thought once we acquainted Manchin with our concerns, that he would help us. He would either have Rockwool pick a better location or have better air pollution control technology, but he did not. We visited his office. He would not meet with us, and he had several of our members arrested. And he did write a letter to the EPA. The EPA said, this is up to West Virginia DEP, and he left it at that. And we all know, probably why, because he's in the pocket of corporate interests and no help whatsoever.
I know some of the families with children are aware who are nearby in the schools, but is the general population aware of the dangers that their children are exposed to every day?
They are. A large percentage. There is a percentage of people in the county who are for Rockwool because they like the jobs that they'll bring. But those jobs most of those don't even pay a living wage in Jefferson County. So the other place that they have a factory in Mississippi, it was a very different situation. It was over 10% unemployment, and their wage was a living wage. But they came to West Virginia thinking we were like Mississippi, because we're often in the bottom of the rankings like Mississippi. But this county's different. We have very low unemployment. We trade between Berkeley County for the lowest in the state, And our cost of living is high because commuters from Washington, D.C. Live here.
Yeah.
So it's a very different situation. The jobs they offer do not provide a living wage. And so it's a poor trade-off for all that pollution for 120 low-paying jobs.
Well, we're out here marching now. What's next, Dr. Catherine, in the movement? What's the next? How do we need to raise the level of movement?
Well, I think we continue to keep pressure on Rockwool. So several of us own a share in Rockwool stock, and we're pressing from the shareholders' perspective for changes in the company. We acquaint the country and the world with what they're doing and their climate denialism, and just keep the pressure on them that way, I think. We also are watching them from a regulatory point of view. So when they are emitting contaminants into our water or air, then we are aware, and we make sure that the West Virginia DEP is actually taking action.
Stewart was explaining how this is one company that has not embraced the sanctions against Russia. They support the Russian regime.
Correct. I am sure that in addition to keeping their factories open in Russia, I'm sure their insulation is used in military tanks and stuff like that. And basically Rockwool is like any other big corporation in America. All they care about is profits. And so staying open in Russia, they're profiting.
Dr. Catherine Jozwick, pleasure to meet you. She's a physician and a scientist, and she wants to see our young people stay alive. Thank you. We're here with two residents of West Virginia who are involved in activism when it comes to Rockwool, and we're hearing about all of their egregious harms to the community. First, we want to get everyone's name. Your name, please, first, ma'am.
Jennifer King. And I have a bee company that's like not even half a mile as the crow flies from Rockwool. And I have yards around where bees are that are going to be affected by the pollution. And I'm also part of Rural Agricultural Defenders, who have filed 2 Title VI complaints against West Virginia state and local agencies on the behalf of the African American slave burial ground that's right beside of Rockwool. Matter of fact, their graves are on Rockwool's property.
Wow. And ma'am, what is your name?
My name is Susannah Buckles, and I have a farm right down the road, a 330-acre cattle farm that I inherited from my dad. And it is under farmland protection, and it is approximately a mile downwind from Rockwool, and also contains the headwaters of the Elksland watershed, which is a major contributory to the Chesapeake Bay watershed.
That is very drinking water too, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, that's first, and then comes Chesapeake.
Yeah.
But I couldn't remember that part.
Yeah.
So you have a bee farm. How does this affect the bees?
Well, Rockwool's pollution can interfere with the ability for bees to be able to find food, tell their sister bees where to find food, the ability to come back home. It also reduces the nutrients and proteins in pollen, which basically makes pollen junk food for bees. So if they do go out here and find this pollen, if they're lucky enough, like the carbon dioxide didn't mess with them so much that they can find some pollen, it's going to be junk food. So it wasn't worth their trip, basically.
And as human beings, we still need bees, right? Or we don't need them no more.
No, we need bees. They pollinate, I believe it's out of every 4 bites of food, it's like three bites they pollinate.
Yeah. And in terms of, you have a cattle farm. Yeah. How does this affect your cattle?
Well, first of all, this is a grass-fed beef farm. And it's also could be considered organic. There has been no Roundup or any other poisons utilized on this farm since 2005. And
And I'll probably put bees back there this year.
Yes, you will. That's right.
I've had bees there. No, she does a great job at keeping everything pesticide free. But it would affect your cattle's drinking water.
Oh, well, affects cattle's drinking water, and also because of the decline of the bees, it would affect the growth of alfalfa and any numbers of other grasses that are essential to the health of the cattle and to this operation. Not to mention the waters. You know, the karst situation over here and the sinkhole things, and there have already been some lawsuits in process that have garnered some attention and against this situation. My personal feeling is that the fact that they allowed this company to come in and not even utilize any of the scrubbers and cleansing equipment and programs that they use in their own country of Denmark. And people even bought a share of stock so that they could come and make this presentation at the stockholders meeting in Denmark. And the president of the company said, well, this will not be of any benefit to our stockholders, so we're not going to pay any attention to what you say. And that is a paraphrase, but there are people who were there and who know.
Yeah,
karst
is a big issue, and so basically all of our land is kind of like on limestone, and limestone is very porous, and so we have a lot of underground caverns, and so any changes in the land structure, water tables, anything like that can cause huge sinkholes. So when they were building, they had more than 24 sinkholes open up over there. One of them was big enough to put a school bus in, and that's where their sediment pond, one of their sediment pond, is going. And it's a big engineering no-no and environmental no-no to put sediment ponds where in karst territory. So we're more than likely going to get poisoned quicker by their sinkhole activity, and their liner has already leaked. That's another problem. So we're probably going to be poisoned quicker by water rather than air.
That's something else. As we see that smokestack up in the air behind you, as big as the clouds, covering up the clouds. In fact, let me ask you about the African American burial ground. What's the deal with that?
Well, there's actually two burial grounds that are side by side, and all of the land characteristics shows that it's a slave burial ground. There's very little records that are on it, but we've done grave research or death certificate research to try to match up, who could be there. But again, it needs some professional archaeological help, there was graves that, like I said, that were on Rockwool's property, at least 24, but without proper archaeological research, we don't know exactly how many and how far those graves extend, and that's never been done. And the trustees and the descendant community lack the funds for, proper legal funds, archaeological research, so it just kind of remains in limbo over there.
So what's next? Where do you see the movement going? Are we gaining ground? Are we near victory? Do we have any idea?
It's a fight. It's always a fight. It's always a struggle. There's always going to be Rockwools here, everywhere, and there's a lot of other communities that have it a lot worse than what we do, but we just all have to keep fighting.
Yeah. I want to thank you all for joining us. I just want everybody to see the smokestack. I just zoomed in on it.
Terrible.
And not only the smokestack, but what I'm seeing is those puffs of smoke, and you can follow them right across the sky.
And then since we're in a valley, we have inversion issues, so all of this pollution just kind of hangs and hovers.
And numbers of us have, including today, and I've been feeling it for the last week or so, and several other people that I know as friends, watery eyes, sinus things, and they give out a number, I don't know what the particulate is, that's supposedly within range, but it is definitely on the high side.
Well, they self-report, so who knows what they do? Who knows how much they can do?
I want to thank you both for joining us and letting us know what's happening down here in West Virginia. No problem. And we're with you. Keep up the fight.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thanks for getting woke and listening to Make It Plain. As always, perform an act of kindness on behalf of an elder or young person. Write a letter to a sister or brother who just so happens to find her or himself incarcerated. Offer libations to the ancestors upon whose sturdy shoulders we all now stand, and above all, give thanks to the God of your understanding by whatever name you call her and him. All God asks of us is that we give each other love. Thanks for giving MIP love. And please remember to subscribe and give us a 5-star rating. If all hearts and minds are clear, it has been made plain.